Hey. I'm out. You're live.
Wonderful. Hello, everybody. Sorry about the wait. We figured out some technical difficulties, and now we're here. So today we're going to talk about anchor positioning. And I just wanted to say I'm James Stuckey Weber and a front-end developer, and have been enjoying digging into anchor positioning. Miriam, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Miriam Suzanne, and I'm one of the founders here at OddBird and part of the CSS working group. So I've been following anchor positioning from the spec side, but haven't had a chance to play with it much. So I'm hoping you'll show me around a little bit.
Yeah, I think we'll talk a little bit about what anchor positioning is, and then dive into some demos, because I think that's where it really gets interesting and makes a lot more sense once we dig in and get our hands on code. I'm really excited about anchor positioning because I tend to be more the back end of the front end, working a lot more with JavaScript. And this is, I've used, Popover and I think Floating UI, some of these libraries that do anchor positioning in different ways. And it's always feels a little bit not the best way, or it doesn't feel like the right place for figuring out anchor positioning logic and how to place things on the screen. And so I'm very excited to kind of hand this off to people who are more in the CSS layer of things. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, that's exciting. So we're moving something that had to be done in JavaScript before. Mm-hmm. Now it will be easier to do in CSS. And what that is being able to say, I've got an element, I want to absolute position or fixed position it, but I want to anchor it to something specific. So with fixed position, you're usually just default anchored to the viewport. Mm. And with absolute position, you're default anchored to your positioning context, or whatever the term is there, the nearest positioned element.
Yeah.
And this is letting you mix that up and choose specific elements to anchor to.
Yeah. And so this is a pattern that gets used a lot in tooltips, menus, like drop-down menus and nested drop-down menus. Those have always been kind of the bane of my existence to try to implement well. And things like combo boxes, a lot of the things where, you want, where one thing is and you want to put something else in relationship to that in some way. So I'm excited. Do you want to share your screen and we can get coding?
Sure. Share screen. Let's see. Here we go. So right now, anchor position is only supported in the latest Chromium. So I pulled up a Chromium browser to play with. Is the font size here legible?
If you can make the CSS a bit bigger, yeah, that works there. Yep.
All right, great. So I gave us just an H1, which we can use as an anchor, and a span here to start pushing things around. I want to see where the H1 is exactly. So let's just give that an outline. Let's give it some padding so it's got a little more space to it. It's going to be, that'll work. Mm-hmm. And for the span, so we can see what it's doing, we'll just give it a background of, I think I have some colors set up here. What did that do? All right. We didn't need a special color there, but it works. All right. Yeah. So now what am I doing to use anchor positioning?
Yeah, so the first thing you need to do is kind of define what you're going to anchor, or what is your anchor. So you do that with the anchor name property on the thing that you're anchoring it to the H1. So and then it's a dash name. You can call it whatever you want.
I named it Joe.
Great. I'd like to meet this anchor at some point. And then you, on your span, you want to say, I want to use this thing as my anchor. And so you do that with the position dash anchor property. And then you just do position anchor Joe.
Position anchor just Joe like that?
That's right.
Okay, but right now I'm not positioned, so I probably need to position absolute should work?
Absolute should work, yep.
Okay, and now the reason I haven't moved is because by default an absolute position element positions statically, it's weird. So what do I have to do to say, oh, okay, actually I want to go somewhere in relation to my position anchor?
Yeah. So then you can just start, when you have an absolute positioned element, when you do top 0, it goes all the way to the top of the screen. So let's just actually try that. And it goes all the way to the top of the screen. But instead of doing that, we can say position it in relationship to the anchor. So we use the anchor function, which is the new anchor function. So, and then we can say we want to position that relative to the bottom of the anchor, for instance. And then.
So we're saying the top of my element is positioned to the anchor bottom.
Yes.
Now I didn't get the what I expected there.
Yeah.
I think that's actually because of this grid thing I'm doing. Right? I ran into this bug yesterday.
Oh yes, yeah.
So that seems like a bug. Am I right? That's a bug, or is there?
I think so. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'll get rid of that.
Yeah. But yeah, so there you can see we have anchored the top of the span to the bottom, and you can move it around. You can say top, and so you can
probably say start.
Yep, you can say start. So the flow relative items as well. So yeah, and there's a ton of different options on how you can arrange these things.
Now, if I remember right, I can remove this position anchor and I can be explicit about it here instead. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
Great.
So, and that's helpful if you want to refer to multiple different elements or just be explicit. Either one works. If you're wanting to position, if you're wanting to do the top and the bottom, or the top and the left, or whatever, multiple inset keywords or anchored to different places, then you can just refer to this. It's kind of like the default anchor for anything here. Yeah.
Right. So I could do, okay.
So yeah, you're using the same anchor for both, and you're saying have it go from the start to the end of the anchor. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Now I think there's another even faster way, right, to position without bothering with the different insets?
You can do inset area is the fun thing to do with that. And this is a incredibly powerful, and there's just a ton of different options here where you can do inset area. You did inset area center. You can do inset area top, and it just puts it where it should go in relationship to your anchor. And there's a ton of different options here. Actually, if you want to jump over to anchortool.com, this might be a good time to show this.
Sure.
Yeah. So this is from Una Kravitz, I think is her name. It's a very helpful way of showing this. It's a very there's a lot of different options. So here you can see by setting the inset area to different values, you can move things around. So top, left, bottom, right, those are the kind of simple ones. And you can also do top left, top right, all of these very semantic, easy to describe. You're putting it in the bottom right there. And then you can also start spanning. So if you want to span span two of the item or the blocks on the grid. If you think of it as a 3x3 grid with the anchor in the middle, your target is, you can kind of say, I want it to be right and span bottom, which means it'll span the bottom and the center. It'll be the height of both of those. And then you can also do span all. Right, span all will have the height, can take up the height of the entire grid, or kind of center it on that.
Right. And then Una doesn't show here that you can do center, so you can actually overlay the thing as well. Yeah. And then she does have the logical properties here, so you can do the same thing, but logical instead of physical.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is also, so you can just talk about, in relationship to block and inline axes and where they're going, and start and end, and things like that. Just kind of, I think the purple row, if you do the first one in that row, you can just do inset area start and inset area end. I think those are probably going to be two very commonly used positions. So yeah, I think this is just kind of the syntax. When I was reading the spec for the first time, there's I don't know how many different variations on this property. It's like 60 some options. So this tool, I definitely recommend coming here and checking it out. It's very powerful and very helpful to kind of wrap your head around all of these options and how they work.
Okay. Yeah, should we jump into some of your demos?
Sure. Because there are a ton of different different things here. So I have a code pen, and all of these links we'll have in the show notes afterwards as well. So if you don't grab it in time, I have a collection of different demos that we can kind of walk through. And one of the things that I saw you doing, we'll start with the anchor size one. I think this is interesting. When you made the span, that positioned element, when you made that the height of the H1, you were basically saying, going from the top to the bottom, you're basically setting the height. And you can do that more explicitly here with using the anchor size value. So here I have a text area that you can drag the text area itself to resize. And as you resize it, I set the width to be, I have it anchored to the text area. So that orange box there, the width is going to always have the width of the anchor size. And then the height, just be for fun, you can use anchor size with calc, and so right now I have it, or you are multiplying it by 2, so it's always going to be 2 times the size of the text area box. Or you can do whatever you want with those calculations. I know.
That's wild. That's wild. Yeah. So I could even, now I'm just thinking, I could even say leave it where it was. In this case, that's overlapping the thing, so maybe it doesn't work. But I don't even have to position it relative to this thing. I can actually just grab sizes from it potentially.
Correct.
Which is kind of interesting. Although I do need to be in an absolute positioned situation. So I have to pull it out of the flow to do it. But, Wow.
Yeah. So that is pretty nifty. And just to kind of jump back to anchor positioning as well, you can also do calc on your anchor, so left, and then do a calc there. if you want to move the, move it from the anchor slightly off center or something like that.
Oh, so I could I do like anchor left plus 1M?
Yep.
And
yep.
yeah, okay, I see.
Yeah.
Was that allowed? Did I break something?
I'm trying to think. My guess is that I don't know if that's allowed.
Yeah.
But
okay.
Yeah, because these are, I mean, they're not like pixel values, or they're not. I don't think they're like actual pixel values. I don't quite understand the mental model behind it, but I don't think you could use it directly as that. So I think you need to use anchor for left. Yeah, if I remember right, you have to use anchor for your inset values, and then the sizes you can use just for height and width.
Okay. All right.
But you can do flip it, so reference the width of the anchor size in the height, and so you can do all kinds of crazy things there. And yeah, actually, if you jump over to the Anchor 2 code pen.
Let me find the. Do you have the link?
Let's see. It is
it Popover one?
The that one right there. Yeah. So this one here, that once again we have a text area that you can resize, and then I just used some calc to say resize everything else relative to that. So the height of that lower left box, that coral box, is let's see, the height of that coral box is 20M minus the anchor size. So I'm basically saying that our large, the outside box is 20M, and then you're able to calculate all the other values based on that to take up the remaining space.
Right, and all of that absolute position.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. This is wild. All right, let's see some others.
Yeah. So I think one of the very let's see, one of the very interesting ones is the popover. So this is one where this is one of the inspirations for anchor position, I would say. And so we have an anchor, and now you can anchor, or you can anchor your popover to that anchor. And so you can combine that syntax really well. The actual syntax is a bit in flux, or Whatwig is working on it. Or how popover works with anchor specifically, but it works or as it is right now, and I think this will be really helpful for those drop down menus and things like that we that you can work on.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Anchored to the end and the end.
Yep.
Yeah. There it is.
And this,
all right.
You can definitely simplify that with Inset Area. Yeah.
Right. So I could, instead of being explicit about that, just say Inset Area end, but I'm going to need to set the position.
Yeah.
Anchor, position
Correct.
anchor.
Yeah.
To Joe was shorter. But my anchor popover also works. Okay.
Explicit.
Yeah, there we go.
Yep.
All right.
So yeah, you can do that. Let's see. So Westbrook Johnson just asked, this is probably a good chance to check. Does anchor support logical property values? For example, anchor inline start. So if you...
The anchor function?
Yeah, the anchor function, yeah. So... inline dash.
Well,
yeah.
Okay. If we do left inline start.
Yeah. And actually, quick check in on the. And no, and I'm not quite sure if that is an implementation detail or a spec detail.
I think it might just be that. I think you just say start, and it takes the dimension from here. So if I said pop start, it would align there. And if I say left start, so it's taking the dimension, so you don't have to say inline or block.
Yeah.
Because it's taking that from which inset it's on. Yeah. That makes sense to me, because it wouldn't make sense to align the left to the top. There's no way to do that. So
yeah, you can actually do inside and outside. So it's for the anchor instead of start. So actually, I think it would need to be on. Let's see. Yeah, so if you do replace start with inside, that may also not be implemented yet. But so that depending on which inset property it's used on, then it resolves to the, or it refers to the, or inside refers to the same side as that inset property, and outside refers to the opposite one.
Right, but that might not be. Yeah. Doesn't seem to be implemented yet. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So that is coming, and will be I think will be nice. I think maybe hop over to the anchor scope. And Johnny Garrick-Meyer asks, can you assign the value of anchor size to a custom property? That's a great question.
I would expect so, right?
Yes. This is sadly a broken demo, so we probably don't want to test in this one, but
okay. Yeah, we'll test that in the next one.
Yeah, yes, we'll come back to that. But in this one, anchor scope is another really interesting one. A lot of times I'm needing to, I have a list of items and I need to anchor on different things in each element. And what I've done in the past is, create an ID for each element and then refer to them directly. What anchor scope does, and as you can see, it's not implemented yet. It basically says we set, if you go down in the CSS to let's see,
every list item has an anchor with the same name.
Yeah, and then in the list item itself, we say the anchor scope is list item. So we say basically you're going up in the DOM tree. That target is looking for the nearest thing that is that has that anchor name, because otherwise, and as you can see what it's doing here, it just goes to the last thing in the DOM order.
Right. So they're both anchoring to this anchor.
Correct.
Although it should be that each one goes to its own anchor.
Yes.
Because of the scoping. So what we're seeing right now is as if you didn't have the scope. Yeah. Because that's not supported.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that'll be useful, because then you don't need to give them each one its own name.
Exactly. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. Do we have a demo that we can answer Johnny's question with?
Let's see. Why don't we try? let's do, I mean, yeah, position try, the fallback options with position try. That might, I think, or let's see, we're looking at anchor size. Maybe jump back to one of the anchor size demos. Let's see. Yeah. So the question is, can we set it to a custom var?
Can we use anchor size in a var?
Yeah.
So let's do that. Let's say my size is anchor size width. And here we'll call that. Seems to me like it will just work.
Yeah.
And it does.
Yep. And I think that is part of the beauty of just CSS. A lot of these, how it's, the engine behind it, it just kind of, these things flow through, even if it's not explicitly called out in this new spec. So that's
right.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Another very tricky thing with JavaScript is fallback. So you want to keep your drop down menu or whatever on the screen. So yeah, I have two demos here. There's a position try. And I think you need to scroll to the left a little bit as well. I was trying to, yeah, there we go. So trying to keep things visible, but also needing to demo the scroll part. So here we have position try on that target. So position try is set to flip block. So the target, once it goes off the screen, if you scroll up, or scroll, that way, it'll flip the block dimension. So then you can also, this is going to be, a position try is the simplest, most straightforward option of this.
And that's all it takes.
Yep.
No way.
Yep.
OMG.
Yep.
This is the thing that we particularly needed JavaScript for in the past.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, there's going to be some library authors who shut down their libraries. Okay,
yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. And then, so that's doing it in the block direction, and then you can also do it in the inline or the start. I think, yeah, so.
Right.
Yeah. And because it's the left is anchored to the center, when you flip it inline, the right is anchored to the center.
Right. So it just takes whatever you've done and looks for anything that's directional in that axis and flips it.
Yep. And then flip start combines those. So yeah.
So either way, it's going to flip across that angle.
Yeah. To this. Yeah.
Now, I think, and I'm just going from memory here, I haven't actually tried this. I can do something like, I can list these, right?
Yes.
So I could say, see if flipping the inline works, but if we need to go somewhere else, then do the flip start.
Yeah.
I guess that's going to be, oh no, that would be different from flip block.
Yeah.
Right. So here it's saying, well, both of them are off screen, so we'll go with the first one you chose.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And then if you flip over to the other anchor position, try more options demo. This is position try is kind of like the simplified version that will probably handle most cases. But then if you really want to specify things, you have position try options, which here we're saying, ideally, we're going to put it on the bottom right. If it doesn't go there, we're going to put it on top. And if it doesn't go there, it goes on left. And then
okay, and those are dashed idents, which means you made them up.
I made those up, and those are with the @position try rule. So we say when it's on the bottom right, this is how that goes. And within that position try, you can only do positioning inset values. You can't change the color or do other things like that. It's just for positioning. But yeah,
could we instead, would we be able to say inset area here?
Let's try it.
Inset area bottom right, I guess. Whoop, I can't type. Bottom right. And then will it, oh, there it went to the bottom right. Yep. Okay. Ooh, handy. All right, and it's going to try these in order. So if bottom right doesn't work, it's going to go on top. And if on top doesn't work, it's going to go on left. Okay, and what happens? Oh, right. Well, the way you've set it up, I can't make on, I suppose, here, I can make all of them fail, right?
Yeah.
Oh, no, I need to change the width of a thing.
Oh, yeah.
The wrapper width. Let's find it.
Yep.
Okay, and then it's going to say, it's saying, well, none of them are great, so it's going to the first one.
Yeah.
But when on top works, it sticks with it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Estelle says, I thought with position try, you could add box model properties. I'm looking at the spec. I would not be surprised if that's true. I know it is a subset of the CSS spec or the CSS values. Yeah. Oh yes, margin, sizing.
Okay.
Yes. Thank you, Estelle.
Margin properties. Yeah, inset properties, margin properties, sizing, self-alignment, position anchor, and inset area.
Yeah.
All right.
So position anchor, does that mean you could, I mean, potentially you could change what you're anchoring to when you need to change the target?
That's sure what it sounds like.
Yeah. So that could be pretty powerful.
Let's see. What if I put it out here? Class anchor 2. And we say anchor 2. Oh, I failed to type that. Anchor 2 is a, wait, anchor name. And we say here. Now I think actually, if we're doing absolute position, we're probably captured by that wrapper. And I put something outside of the wrapper. So I think we can get out to it by using fixed. But let's find out. Fixed means now it's outside the wrapper. It's working off of the viewport. It's still anchored to what I want it to anchor to, but since it's outside the wrapper, it's able to overflow like that. And then which one here? Where's our? Oh, I'm in the wrong demo. I need a position try.
And Estelle asks if we can put a width 400 pixels inside of that and see what happens as well.
Okay. So now I'm doing position try. Can I just put it here in position try, or do I need to use position try options?
Let's see. I think his position try is the shorthand. Let me. Yeah, I think position try should work. Yeah.
Okay. I don't think it's switching, but that might be because
it's fixed, or
it could be because it's fixed. I also wonder if it's just because this one isn't helping it. So if we say inset area bottom, will it jump to the bottom of that one when it goes off? No. Okay, let's try absolute again and move this inside somewhere.
Still says you need to go off the edge or try to work.
I don't know where anchor 2 is even in all this.
Yeah.
Maybe I should go to the one where you... This was it?
Yeah.
Where did I ruin our width? What if we make the wrapper itself, give it an anchor name? And now we say in our position on top, we're going to use position anchor. With 400 pixels for you, Estelle. Let's see. Can we move? So on bottom right, now it should switch to, oh, maybe that's off screen. So inset area center. Still doesn't love it.
Yeah. Well,
do we think possibly this isn't implemented yet, or?
It's quite possibly, yeah. Yeah.
Even that, we're not getting our.
Can you put the width on the left and just so we can see if we're able to get the or see that changing? Yeah. There we go. Yeah. So
oh, okay. So the width is changing there.
Yeah. And one thing to note there, position try order is another rule. We won't try to get into that right now, but you can say, I want to try or sort my options based on the based on what has the most height, the most width, or the most block size or inline size. So you can just do most width, for instance, and actually probably that will.
Is that dashed or?
Yes.
Most width.
And then that will probably make it go, yeah, it'll go over to the left.
Right.
So because that has the most width.
Got it. Yeah, okay. That's clever.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Yeah, so position try is really, there's a ton of options there. I think it's going to be pretty nifty to be able to fall back and do all of those changes. I think
I just jumped ahead.
Oh, wonderful. Yeah.
I saw a demo that looked cool and I went to it.
Yes. So this is another thing you can do. You can anchor on anything that has a CSS. You can has a way of grabbing it. So on the slider thumb, we just say, here's my anchor name, and then you can anchor on that. So of course, no JavaScript in this demo, but you could update that to have the label of or the value of whatever you're sliding to in your range.
Right.
Yeah. So that's something you can anchor or anchor to. And actually, can you jump to the multiple? Yeah, the multiple anchors. So another thing you can do is this is a bad idea, and which is the title of the code pen. But you can anchor to multiple things. For one element or one target, you can anchor multiple things. So the top is, or they're all anchored to different parts of that range, and just setting the anchor name and what the so yeah, that target has the left, right, and bottom and top all set tied to that, and so that's a really it's going to be nifty to be able to target different things, and yeah, hopefully
I think
better uses than that.
This is also a good demo of what exactly it's doing.
Yeah.
Because so when you position to, say, a relatively positioned ancestor, right? You set your wrapper to position relative. That creates a containing block for positioning. And what we're doing here is the same thing. So with anchor position, we're changing the containing block, and then we can work off of that. So by default, it's stretching to fill that block. Now, which one here is the
target
thing, the dot target?
Yeah.
Where's that? Dot target.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's positioned absolutely. We've created these insets. So now we've got that box, but we can actually do our usual alignment stuff, justify self or align self, and we can move it around. And that's going to disappear because it doesn't have, let's say, min block size 1em, min inline size 1em. All right. So now when we set it to justify to the start, it does that. We can justify it to the end. So by default, it's doing a stretch across the entire space, but it doesn't have to. We can use alignment on positioned elements. That's actually something that rolled out in browsers recently, and I think part of the reason browsers finally rolled that out, it's been in the specification for a long time, but I think part of the reason they finally rolled it out is for anchor positioning. So if we want to do justification and alignment at the same time, we can do that to move things around. Center a thing in? Yeah. So we can push this little box around anywhere we want inside of the anchoring. So the anchoring creates this positioning context, and then we can do alignment within that positioning context, which I think is pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah, that definitely changed how I was thinking about what these boxes were and how this all works. Estelle's asking, does justify self anchor center work?
Justify self anchor center. Now I'm a little, okay. It did something.
Yeah.
But I think it's having to pick one of the anchors, right? That's what it seems like, is it's only anchoring to one of them.
That is a good point. I'm not sure. Okay, so if the positioned element has a default anchor element, so if you give it a default anchor element, then it will
position anchor bottom thumb, because it was doing to the top thumb, it seemed like.
Yeah.
And now it's doing, centering to that.
Yeah. So the anchor center is allowed on justify self, align self, justify items, and align items.
Okay.
That's a new value on all of those properties.
Cool.
Yep.
So justify items and align items would be if we want to put this on the container instead. We could justify self goes on the item itself, and justify justify items applies to all of its children. Well, that didn't seem to work, but that's what I would expect.
Yeah, likely the DOM might not be, or the target is a direct shot of the container, and so there might be some, or it's kind of a janky DOM because of trying to vertically
trying to do all these things at once.
Yeah.
All right, that's all pretty cool.
Yeah.
Need some more exploration.
Yeah.
And it'll be interesting to see here what still changes, because I know that like the working group call yesterday, we went through 4 anchor positioning issues. They were all just minutia of how exactly do certain edge cases work and what exactly should syntax be in certain cases. So I imagine a few of these things will still change.
Yeah. I think it's fairly stable, but yeah, I think it's a lot of the edges that are kind of getting refined to get final place. Yeah. Another use case is side notes. This is one that's come up a few times.
Oh yeah.
So
Eric Meyer wrote a whole blog post about this, right?
Yeah. So this is another way where if you have, some long text, if you scroll that, you can, that blue word is the anchor, and then you can anchor. So we're anchoring the top of it, of that node on the side, anchoring that to the top of that word or that phrase, and then we're anchoring the left of that box to the paragraph or the text itself.
Right.
So we are anchoring 2 different things, and you're able to just kind of follow both of those along and track that very easily.
Right. To be a little more explicit here, the top is anchoring to my anchor, which is that blue. And did I break something there?
You shouldn't have, but it appears so.
Shouldn't have, but it appears so. Yeah. Okay.
Well, the other thing to note there, it's not. I this is a newer part of the spec, and I don't think it's implemented yet. There's position validity. If you do, if you scroll up on the on that, or once the target is no longer visible, it's still visible. But eventually, position validity will help us say we don't want to show this once we can no longer see the target.
Right. Once the target goes off screen, that should disappear too.
Yeah.
Got it. And I think in the spec I saw, now I can't find the spec. Position visible. Oh, is that a similar thing?
Yeah.
Anchor is visible.
Yeah.
Did the name of it change maybe?
It may have, or I may have typoed on that, but yeah. So
let's see if position visibility.
Did I do visibility?
Can I spell position visibility? Maybe not.
Yeah. So, yeah. One of those where I was expecting it to not work and then it didn't, so I erred unsuccessfully. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So what is the status of things here?
Yeah. So it's well, if you jump over to Can I Use the CSS anchor positioning, it's there. It's in Chrome, the latest Chrome. Other browsers are working on it. But it's a very new part. It's exciting to work on or to work with, but yes, it's not ready for support yet. So to kind of bridge that gap, there is a polyfill that OddBird is working on at CSS, or you can jump over to that. And it is, we did a lot of work when the original spec was in motion. So some of as the spec has changed, some of this is a little bit out of date. I would say most very basic use cases, you can start working on it, but if you go down a little bit further, there's a whole list of features that we don't have working yet or haven't been able to implement yet. So we are working on making sure the correct DOM order is respected, and position anchor, that default position anchor. Those are two items in flight. We recently shipped multiple anchor names on one anchor element. That's a new part as well. And then I think some of these like the position try and the anchor scope, I think those are really exciting, and we want to start working on them as we can. So I would say for many use cases, you can use this, but there are definitely some use cases where it's not quite ready yet, sadly. So, yeah.
Right, and some of the syntax has changed. We need to update.
Yeah.
And we do have a way for people to help sponsor that work, especially if your company is hoping to use this and be able to support older browsers. We'd love both PRs and help funding it. So
yeah, we have a great PR in progress from a community contributor. So we definitely appreciate that, as well as sponsors. Yeah.
Yeah, and the whole thing, it only runs if anchor positioning is not supported. So
correct.
It gets out of the way as soon as a browser has support. It's not doing browser sniffing, it's doing feature sniffing.
Yeah. Yep, that's right. We also have an open collective if you prefer to support us over there. Feel free to support us there. And another great way to support the work of OddBird, and also I think get more like today, there's an upcoming workshop that Miriam is doing. Do you want to say more about that?
Yeah, it's going to be 3 2-hour sessions on CSS layout and really understanding. I mean, we're going to get into things like positioning context, what boxes are and what they do. So yeah, cascading layouts coming up at the end of June, and sign up. I think it'll be a fun course, and we'll get really in depth with everything CSS layout. Open for registration now.
Yeah. Wonderful. Well, I've definitely enjoyed diving deeper into this. I think I learned a few things, even though I was the teacher in some ways on this one, and also definitely enjoyed getting questions from the audience. It was good to hear what their questions are.
Yeah, thank you all for joining us and playing along.
Yeah, we'll have all the links in the show notes shortly if you want to play with CodePens or help us out with anything. Yep.
Cool.
Yep.
Great to see you.
Bye, all.